You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. Nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday the 4th of June. Cash-strapped Islington Council renovates 1.8 million Grade 2 property to house family on benefits. Nationally, over 11,000 households on benefits worth £47,000 a year to the average taxpayer. Baroness Varzi fights back. Crunch time as focus shifts to Spanish banks. Developed economies reaping benefits of Colombian drug trade. US drones kill 15 militants in Pakistan. Thought for the day, is it still our national health? Finally, don't wear that t-shirt, boy. UK news. Cash-strapped Islington Council renovates 1.8 million Grade 2 property to house family on benefits. The 5-bedroom townhouse with a games room, 3 bathrooms, a 40-foot garden is being renovated to home an Indian couple with 4 children. The council had £52 million cut from its funding for 2011 to 2013, yet still finds the money to waste on this renovation. Local residents are amazed and angry that the council is not selling the property and using the money to provide more homes. Long-term Islington residents are being forced out because they cannot afford the area, whilst an Indian family are being moved in. Robert Oxley of the Taxpayers Alliance told the Daily Express it's balmy for the council to spend so much just so one family can live there. It should focus on providing affordable housing. Nationally, over 11,000 households on benefits worth £47,000 a year to the average taxpayer. To cap it all, the Daily Mail reports that more than 100 families on benefits are living in luxury homes and more than 11,000 households are raking in benefits that are at least the equivalent of a higher rates taxpayer's £47,000 a year salary. These figures were disclosed by Work and Pensions Secretary Ian Duncan-Smith. Baroness Varzi fights back. Baroness Varzi, whose job is to foster relations with Tories in Britain, has taken 17 foreign trips in the last 2 years. Senior allies claim PM ordered undisclosed foreign trips which were vital to the Afghan mission. It is believed she has visited Islamabad 5 times since being appointed minister, all at the request of David Cameron and William Hague. A Cabinet Officer's spokesperson said, as a Muslim who is fluent in Urdu, Punjabi and Gujarati and who can read and write Arabic, Baroness Varzi is a massive asset in representing the British government abroad. Pull the other one. Euronews. Crunch time as focus shifts to Spanish banks. Sky News reports Madrid will this week replace Athens as the focus of European efforts to save the euro after Spain bungled attempts to bail out its 4th largest bank. Many analysts now believe that the Spanish rescue of Bankia may hold the secret to saving the euro. Bankia's headquarters in Madrid have become the focus of noisy protest. This weekend around 200 demonstrators expressed their opposition to the government's plan to use public funds for bailout. The Spanish banking system may need around €100 billion to prop it up, according to the EU. World news. Developed economies reaping benefits of Colombian drug trade. The Guardian reports on a study that claims while cocaine production ravages countries in Central America, consumers in the US and Europe are helping developed economies grow rich from the profits. The authors of the study claim that financial regulators, primarily in the US and Europe, are loath to go after Western banks who are laundering vast amounts of drug money. The study shows that less than 3% of the drug money is retained in the drug-producing country, whilst criminal syndicates and banks in the consumer countries hold over 97% of the profits. The work, carried out by 2 economists at the University of the Andes in Bogotá, is part of an initiative by the Colombian government to overhaul global drugs policy and focus on money laundering by the big banks in America and Europe, as well as social prevention of drug taking and consideration of options for decriminalising some or all drugs. One of the economists claimed it's taboo to go after the big banks. It's political suicide in this economic climate because the amounts of money recycled are so high. US drones kill 15 militants in Pakistan. The Indian Express reports US drones struck a Taliban and Al-Qaeda stronghold in Pakistan's North Waziristan region, killing 15 militants. This is the 8th drone strike in Pakistan since a NATO summit on Afghanistan ended in Chicago on May the 21st. The US stepped up drone strikes after the summit, where Pakistan did not make any announcement about ending a 6-month blockade of supply routes to Afghanistan. The supply lines were shut after a cross-border NATO airstrike killed 24 Pakistani soldiers in November last year. Pakistan says the US drone strikes on its soil are a serious violation of its sovereignty and a contravention of international law, but the US insists that the spy planes are an effective way to fight militants. Thought for the day. Is the National Health Service still our National Health Service? I think not. I think we have lost it like the British people have lost London, to massive immigration and politically correct fascists. I cannot comment on the vast and various offshoots of the NHS system, the care workers, the care and the community people and more who have to reapply for their own jobs, suffer massive cutbacks and still do the job of several people in a timeline that is frankly unreasonable. I make this comment in the face of a statement from a fully qualified care practitioner who is in a team who visits homes containing elderly and vulnerable people. She has been told that 15 minutes is sufficient to get an elderly person out of bed, get them dressed and give them breakfast, and woe betide any extra time spent, bearing in mind this includes travel time. It seems like bullying on a large scale. Now she is a qualified health worker. Do the authorities pick up on our immigrant friends in this fashion? I think not, especially judging by the things I've read about and been told about. Apparently, if you apply to help the elderly, the vulnerable or the infirm, you are subjected to an investigation, a CRB check, that sees whether you have had any problems in the past with the police, alias a UK Criminal Record Bureau check. This can take up to 6 weeks to process, when an applicant gets a job and he or she can either start doing menial jobs because they haven't been checked out yet, or in some cases the job doesn't start until the CRB clears. This seems to apply only if you are a UK resident and white. You can get off the banana boat, apply for a care worker job, and if not born in this country or a legal resident, you do not have to have a CRB check. How mad is this? Not only are we allowing our most vulnerable people to be subject to, in some cases, a vastly different culture of care, but we do not know if they are mass murderers in their own countries. The official reason is that people who have not lived in this country will not have any records for or against them. Wonderful! And as most of these foreign applicants come from countries that are, frankly, third world and not exactly shining beacons of healthcare, what are we opening the door to? Sometimes in our own homes. Now I know some people bleat on about wonderful foreign doctors and nurses and how the NHS would not be operational today if we didn't have them, and I say baloney, or words to that effect. Of course there are some dedicated foreign doctors. I've seen a couple. One was Eastern European with very good English, and the other was a Sri Lankan and his English was unintelligible and he needed a nurse present to translate. The only foreign nurses I've been subjected to were the ones in the nursing home with my mother, and frankly they could have given the headhunters of Borneo a run for their money. Our NHS today seems to be run by foreigners, for foreigners. The story that follows was reported in a national paper and occurred in a London hospital, the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in West London. This used to be a very upper place to go and shows how the face of our country is changing. A Miss Hines had complained to a black African nurse that she should have tested the temperature of a soup she fed an elderly blind woman in the next bed. The woman concerned was left blistered and screaming. This was reported and a few minutes later a staff nurse arrived, yet another black African, Maureen Enwadiki, and she told Miss Hines, "You are a racist." Now poor Miss Hines had been subjected to bad treatment herself. She entered hospital for a simple operation to correct acid reflux but ended up with a punctured lung, as you do. She had to stay 2 weeks extra and was put on a morphine drip to ease the pain and oxygen. Trouble occurred when her drip and oxygen needed replacing over the weekend. Existing staff had not been trained to insert the cannula needed into her hand and the oxygen was not forthcoming. She was given morphine tablets instead and was left hallucinating and crying, and a member of the caring community of worldwide nursing staff told her to be quiet. It was against this backdrop of ignorance and black on white bullying that Miss Hines finally complained. At one stage she even took a Zimmer frame to get out but was stopped. In a truly nauseous letter to the racist Miss Hines, it of course totally skipped the obvious factor that these particular nurses who happened to be black did not follow the duty of care to a patient or patients and should either be disciplined or sacked. The fact is that this letter excused or rather put the whole disgraceful matter up to another level, that of "in the clouds and la la land." The senior nurse wrote that, referring to the racist slur given to Miss Hines, the hospital would be watching Nwadiki's, wait for it, communication skills. Oh please, is this black woman there for her communication skills? No, she's there to nurse, or just earn money in her case of course. The very interesting factor here is that Nwadiki's husband Anthony is a director of a private nursing business. Now am I being thick here, or is it the case of our NHS paying private agencies that provide mainly foreign staff huge amounts of money, and is there a whole sludge of insider trading going on? Is it costing the NHS and therefore the taxpayer millions to enable certain people to earn a very nice living? Thank you very much. Now, I'm not against anyone earning a good living if they give value for money, but clearly Nwadiki is not, and obviously not the less senior nurses who are probably of her tribe as well. Mind you, on a personal note, on the photo shown of Nwadiki, she looked like a bad moon rising and would make me feel even worse if I had to look at that on the recovery ward. Now we come to the atmosphere of real racism within the NHS, and that is when our serving soldiers come back wounded and have to spend time in a general hospital, not a military one. There are many stories of rampant racism from the soldiers' families about the Muslim doctors and nurses who refuse to treat them. Mind you, as the Muslim nurses' elbows have to be covered down to the wrist, so therefore washing your hands takes on a whole new and alarming ritual, aka none washing properly, I would think twice before wanting them attending to me anyway. Why are they allowed to flout the basic laws of hygiene when handling open wounds, etc.? Because they are Muslim? Sikh doctors are allowed to wear jewellery whilst attending patients. Ooh, filthy bangles and open wounds, always a good mix for MRSA and other new bugs. Brings to mind a passage from the book by Catherine Mayo, Mother India, a good read to really make you think. The passage describes in awful detail the childbirth routine enjoyed in pre-war India, namely lots of blood, filth and dirty bangles. Why are we employing these foreigners when firstly their own countries so obviously need them, with everyone killing off everyone not of their sect, but because our own trained doctors cannot get jobs anymore? Knowing the Muslims, they certainly are not cheaper, so my advice is to them, if you do not like the heat, stay out of our kitchen or wash your bloody hands. Our NHS needs a complete makeover, starting with getting rid of all the immigrants that are no good. We need to start treating our own with respect, not palming them off to the people that inflict harm on them. We also need to stop treating illegal immigrants now. It takes time and money which we, the taxpayers and the British government, do not have. Let them go back, or better still, not come here in the first place. This is the British Health Service. It was originated by a Labour government after the World War II for people who could not pay for private doctors, not for newcomers to take advantage of us as soon as they step in the country. Admittedly, a goodly proportion of these people are riddled with disease, yet another reason to have nil immigration or at least a health cap. To touch on another hidden subject, we as human beings responsibly neuter our pets to prevent overbreeding. Why is such a thing taboo for people who ostensibly want to come to a country to have a better way of life? Umpteen children per immigrant family leads to what we have now, overcrowding, and the gradual cessation of the health service. China does not put up with its own people overbreeding. Why should we accommodate strangers? Apparently the second victim of the rabies scare was an Indian woman, no doubt looking after her second home in Upper Rajabat or wherever. Why didn't she stay in India? Don't they have hospitals there? Why bring it back over here? We are the only country on God's earth who allows foreigners more privileges than those who have been born here, worked and paid taxes all their lives. I know that good doctors or nurses can span every ethnicity, but so can the really bad ones. We even entrust our sick to people who have no idea of humanity or caring. I do not care if I'm labelling them all with the same label. In my opinion, a true humanitarian with medical training does not leave their country bereft of medical people to come to the UK to earn more money. The incentive scheme does not cut it with me. Leave us our own doctors and trained nurses. Reinvent the NHS to cut out the dead wood and the bad wood. It would save us millions of what is wasted money, and our care would be meted out by admittedly fewer personnel, but then we would be fewer, wouldn't we? Watch the Old Doctors series and you will see just how far diversity, multiculturalism and immigration have enriched our NHS. Just ram a saucepan on your bonce and head for the nearest A&E. And finally, Union flag t-shirt pupil wrapped. The Sun reports a student was told to leave class for wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with a Union flag print. The student's teacher branded the t-shirt sectarian. The incident was reported to have happened at Douglas Ewart High in Newton Stewart, Wigtonshire, south west Scotland. The pupil was taking advantage of a non-uniform day by wearing the Primark top. The local authority, Dumfries and Galloway Council, told the paper it cannot comment on individual cases. Well, we at World at 8 can. I suppose if it had been a Scottish flag, it would not have been sectarian. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night. Don't forget the big push on this coming Saturday the 9th of June in Blackpool, focusing on the Charlene Downs murder and the ever-growing problem of Muslim grooming. I am going with hopefully a small contingent from the SE region. It's important with the media blackout that we all work together and get a further inquiry on this ghastly crime and others. Good night. June. Cash-strapped Islington Council renovates 1.8 million Grade 2 property to house family on benefits. Nationally, over 11,000 households on benefits worth £47,000 a year to the average taxpayer. Baroness Varzi fights back. Crunch time as focus shifts to Spanish banks. Developed economies reaping benefits of Colombian drug not afford the area, whilst an Indian family are being moved in. Robert Oxley of the Taxpayers Alliance told the Daily Express it's balmy for the council to spend so much just so one family can live there. It should focus on providing affordable housing. Nationally, over 11,000 households on benefits worth £47,000 a year to the average taxpayer. To cap it all, the Daily Mail report.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday the 4th of Trade. US drones kill 15 militants in Pakistan. Thought for the day, is it still our national health? Finally, don't wear that t-shirt, boy. UK News. Cash-strapped Islington Council renovates 1.8 million Grade 2 property to house family on benefits. The 5-bedroom townhouse with a games room, 3 bathrooms, a 40-foot garden is being renovated to home an Indian couple with 4 children. The council had £52 million cut from its funding for 2011 to 2013, yet still finds the money to waste on this renovation. Local residents are amazed and angry that the council is not selling the property and using the money to provide more homes. Long-term Islington residents are being forced out because they cannot